When I was at Hattons, I got an interview with David Milet, who's their exclusive commissions manager. And these are the Hattons' own original products. And it was really interesting to be able to get to chat with him and got some really interesting information in this interview. So without further ado, let's take a look. Hi there, we're here at Hattons and we're going to talk a little bit about exclusives. And I'm very interested to hear what goes into the process of actually picking an exclusive. How do you pick a particular model and decide that's the one to do?
There's various different things we can look at. So one of the first things is whether it's been produced before. Obviously that's a big thing. It doesn't stop if it has been produced before. It doesn't stop it. Obviously we've done things like the 14XX, stuff like that have had a model that's been out for years. So that's the first thing we look at. Next is sort of how many there were and how wide they got around the country. Again, it's not a thing that will stop it, but it's one thing. Sort of how we have a bit of a point scoring system. So we'll look at if it got around everywhere and there was loads of them, it's got a much better chance of being produced than something that didn't get very far and wasn't a big class. But again, we've proved ourselves wrong there with the P class because there wasn't many of them and they're only in the southern. Then it's down to availability of drawings if there's a real one still available. Because that makes it a hell of a lot easier to produce. If you've got a good set of drawings and there's one you can go and actually measure, then it just means that you've got a giant head start over something like the Garrett, where we had a couple of drawings and there isn't one left. It makes it very, very difficult to produce. Then after that, it's going off and getting quotes from factories and seeing if it's actually economically viable as well. So it's not just the model's there and it's ready to do. You have to look at, will it actually make us money and will it actually be available at a price that people are going to be willing to pay?
Right, and how long is the process then from starting to look at a particular class of locomotive to it actually reaching the shops? How long does that normally take?
Well, if you split it down into the research side can vary massively. It can be anything from a couple of weeks up to months, depending on availability of drawings and stuff, because there's a lot of the time you'll find there are drawings available, but they're up in some library or they're in a university's collection because they've taken over a collection from an old manufacturer, something like that. Or you're dealing with the big companies that are still going now with something that's out on the railways that's got what they call intellectual property concerns with it. So you've got to sign non-disclosure agreements, things like that. Obviously, that all takes time. But from actually getting everything and starting the project until coming out in the shops. For locomotive, you're talking 12, 18 months-ish, sometimes a little longer. Then for coaches and wagons, it tends to be a little shorter. You can usually get them in well in within 12 months.
Right, and again, to go back to the how to choose, things like the liveries as well. A lot of people presumably clamour about wanting a particular livery, but how do you whittle that down and decide which of the ones you're going to produce?
We generally try not to. That's what we do with things like the 66 and everything. We try to get as many liveries as possible out of them. But it is, again, a number of them about are there any celebrities, anything special, things like that we'll use to help us whittle down, and popularity of stuff.
Right, yeah.
So that's like with the Class 66, 789, the BR Blue one. That's been so popular with enthusiasts as well as model railway people. Like we said, we've got to do it. Because, there's only one of them, and it only works in a fairly limited sphere of operations, but everyone loves it, everyone knows it, so that's something we've got to do.
Right. I know with things like the Andrew Barclay with the CPC UK livery and the P-Class with the SECR Wartime Grey livery, you've had some sleeper hits. Now, did those catch you off guard, or did you kind of have an inkling that they might be quite popular?
They did, especially the SECR Grey one. That was caught a bit off guard on that one because I think it was the first one we got out. It went off to Sam of Sam's Trains and he reviewed it. He was one of the first to see it. So it gained a lot of traction with that. So what was fairly low orders before, suddenly everyone went, oh, I can get that one. Right, I'm going to have it. So that made that one a bit of a sleeper hit. The CPC one as well, it's a very modern steam loco, should we say. It was from the 70s, so you're after well after the steam ended on the main line, that it had wasp stripes and things. So it's not the usual appeal, but I think quite a lot of people have ordered them because they can run them with diesels.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a little bit of a sleeper hit, but less so than the SECR grey one definitely was a sleeper hit.
Right. So you think you might have a handle for the next model?
Yeah.
You've got more of an idea of.
Exactly.
Well, we'll do that livery because that'll be a good hit.
That's it. Yeah, it's always learning from previous projects. So I've been involved with everything since the last 14 years. So
Right.
I've got quite a few under my belt now.
Right, and presumably you've got other projects in the pipeline. I understand you presumably can't talk about them specifically.
Unfortunately not.
But I mean, how many projects on the go will you be looking at things for the future?
There's always things sort of bubbling under the surface, like do bits of research as things come up. Sometimes it'll just be someone will come in or someone get on the phone and say, "Oh, I've got this. Would you be interested in?" And you say, "Yeah, okay, we'll have a look at it." And it'll come in and you suddenly go, "Oh, well, this bit of information actually makes this a viable project now." Or it'll do the other way and, "Oh, well, this throws another variation in and this other stuff and it'll actually throw a spanner in the works." So you've always got little bits like that coming in. But yeah, we do have projects that are sort of being looked at all the time. Not necessarily ones that are actually working on with CADs or anything like that. But yeah, we've obviously got the two, the crane 12-ton, I forgot the name of it now. The GPC, general purpose crane, and we've got the Bay Garrett and Engage that are actually active projects that are out and released.
Right.
That work's going on them. But yeah, as I say, there's other stuff going on behind the scenes.
I mean, the Bayer Garrett one, that's the Engage version of you had the 00 version in conjunction with Helgen.
Mm-hmm.
So will you be shrinking down some of the other models if they're very successful in 00? Will we see them appearing in other scales perhaps?
Possibly. We're going to see how the Engage Garrett goes. That's our sort of toe in the water, the Engage market. So see how that goes. If it's really successful, then we possibly will look at doing some other stuff. But just because we've made something 00 doesn't mean that it's going to be shrunken in, because there could be other things that we see and say that's a much better project to do. Because yeah, you've got the research there, but other than that, there's not a lot you can reuse. Your CADs and everything you have to completely start again, because you're going to have all different things for where the motors go, wiring, DCC sockets and all things like that, as well as the actual physical wall thicknesses of the model as well. It's not a case of putting the shrink ray on it and going, right, make that Engage. Okay, we're done. Unfortunately, it's just as long, if not longer, in making something an Engage.
Right. And as more and more different models come from all manufacturers as a whole, and lots more classes of locos get covered in model form, is it getting more difficult, or are you actually finding it's opening your eyes to models which maybe you wouldn't have thought about a few years ago, but now you kind of see them with new eyes and new interest?
Yeah, kind of. There's, as I say, there is a lot of stuff coming out now that 10, 15 years ago we'd have gone, God, you're never going to get that in a model. There's all the prototypes that Helgen have done. There's like 009 now become quite a well represented thing compared to what it used to be, with actual ready to run locomotives from a couple of manufacturers, coaches, wagons, things like that. So yeah, as more things come on, it's sort of, you'll get a small nucleus of things, and then it'll be, oh right, well there's a lot more we can do around that now. So SECR, there was nothing SECR 10 years ago. Back when we did the C class and the N, and they've sort of done really well. It's sort of brought some gradual sort of traction to SECR, where people go and do a little bit of research, find out what SECR is, see the livery, it becomes recognisable, and then you've had the whole VH come out, RP. So there's more and more things that they wouldn't have been as viable a long time ago. But yeah, you'll sort of see branches coming off, and then there's more branches from there. So yeah, it does make things a little bit easier. But then you are starting to get down into the very few of a class in very limited locations areas. And like the P's got a nice tiny loco, very nice liveries and things like that. Whereas some of the other branches you go up, when you go to some of the other places around the country, a lot of the locos become fairly similar, or they were sort of bashed about a bit during their working lives to make lots of different variations. So it becomes a bit more difficult then as well. Which one do you do? Is it and that's where the difficulties lie, unfortunately.
And as technology moves on in terms of motor design and the ability to decorate models, does it open different avenues in terms of models which you couldn't have done years previously?
Yeah, well, even with if you take the P class again, I sort of a lot about it, like, but yeah, with
a good model.
It is with the P class, the SECR livery. We really pushed the limits of the printing technology on that, because if you look at things like the buffers, all the buffers are fully lined out. That's a tiny curved surface that has to be printed.
Yeah.
That was a real challenge to get all of, because there's 3 different colours of lining on there as well. Things like that, all the different lining all over it. There's like even lining in the cab on that, which if you look at things like the Backlund C class, that was probably 5-6 years ago at least that was released, and then it wasn't feasible for them to do it. The printing technology has come on that much in the last few years to allow those smaller and smaller details to be printed.
Right, no problem. Well, one last question, and this is from a personal like from me, is there any chance you could consider the Class 2 diesel shunter? Because I know it's one of the few BR classes that haven't been done in model form. Helgen hasn't done it, but it's local to this area as well. Yeah. And I'm just curious, has that been on your radar at all?
It's not been one that we've done a lot of research on, but it's not to say it hasn't crossed the desk at some point.
Right.
So we will consider sort of anything that has a good railway link, and obviously the O2 being a BR class has got a good railway link. So it's not to say never say never, but not at the moment.
Well, you probably get sick of people coming up and going, "Oh, will you make this model? I'll buy one." And you think, yeah, but you need like 499 of your mates to buy one.
Exactly. But no, that's it. If you ever have any ideas, we do, like, we've got ideas at hattons.co.uk. If you have anything, email us in. That helps us if we know there's people out there looking for them. Then
that's brilliant. And presumably, if people do have something that they wanted to suggest, it helps a lot if they have access to pictures that they can pass on. Any other information like that.
Exactly.
Presumably there's a huge wealth of information out there which isn't necessarily in museums or public domain, which it's good to be able to tap into. And I know from my father's collection of stuff, there's pictures there that nobody's ever seen, but they're probably the perfect picture if you want this particular angle of a particular bit of a locomotive or a vehicle. And sometimes it's nice that if people know that you're doing projects, that they get in touch, and even if they think, oh, they'll already have this, sometimes they don't. Yeah,
that's it. And you can be searching internet sites for images, and you'll come across what seems to, if you're just looking for a nice picture of, say, a Class 47, you would look at it and go, that's a really mundane picture, it's slightly out of focus, it's not quite right. But it might be the only one at that time where it had a certain feature on it, and it confirmed something, and to me, that'd be a gold mine. It's like, brilliant, I've got that one photo that one person took and carried it for 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not this lovely picture in a landscape or anything like that, but it just confirms something. So yeah, even if they're sort of, I wouldn't consider that much photos, still keep hold of them because they could be useful to people.
Right, no problem. Anyway, look, it's been great talking. Thank you for your time, and it's been really enlightening. So thank you very much.
Cheers,
Good to speak to you. Well, I hope that video was informative to you. Don't forget to like this video, share it too, and also subscribe to the channel. You'll be the first to know about new videos as and when they come up. And a big thanks to Hattons for taking the time out of their busy day to show me around. And there'll be some more videos coming up from that visit over the next week or so. But until next time, you take really good care of yourself. And this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying bye for now. Today's video has been brought to you in part thanks to the generous donation of my fans on Patreon, and a huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Mark Anthony, Michael Churchwood, Bob Threeton, Alec Ralph, Anthony Hunt, William Wade, Wayne Johns, and Offshore Alan. If you'd like to help support the show, head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk. Thank you. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T. Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.